Chapter 1761 Mechanical Civilization. In the picture, the whole city was destroyed by the giant robots that emerged from the ground in an instant. The ground cracked like an eggshell, and countless small robots drilled out from the ground and began to wantonly destroy everything around them. Those humans wailed and fled, but their bodies were crushed by the huge machines and turned into meat paste in an instant. The picture stopped here, leaving only snowflakes flying all over the sky. Zhang Yi and others fell into silence, because the scenes they saw would only appear in science fiction movies in the past. Zhang Yi leaned on the sofa and remained silent for a long time. Mechanical civilization? This term immediately emerged in his mind. He was not unfamiliar with it after watching many science fiction movies. It was just that in this world that belonged to aliens, it was the first time for him to deal with an existence with a super high level of technology. Even when fighting against the Wulwan Empire, the opponent's main weapon was cold weapons, and they chose to fight with them in the form of superpowers. Although Zhang Yi and others did not understand why this level of civilization still chose a seemingly low-level fighting method, there must be some reason for it. The technological level of the Wulwan Empire is definitely far beyond that of humans. However, such a large-scale super-era robots have never been used on the battlefield. Robots. Zhang Yi rubbed his eyebrows, not knowing how to describe his inner thoughts at the moment. If it's just these things, it shouldn't be difficult for Fremont, Zhang Yi said softly. Fremont has one of the largest stocks of the god of love and death in the world, even more than the stocks of Huaxiu. And their armed forces are also very strong. Even facing these super-era mechanical legions, they can still cope with them. A god of love and death can definitely destroy these existences. Or has their entire territory fallen? Zhang Yi has many questions in his mind. However, it seems that knowing that Zhang Yi would think of these questions after the picture ended, a head of a Fremont's officer appeared again in the camera. It was a middle-aged man with a stern face and brown hair. He said, "At present, this situation has appeared on a large scale in various places in Fremont. Moreover, these mechanical troops possess extremely powerful weapons and equipment, which are ahead of their time. We have tried to use armed forces to fight against them, but our weapons have little impact on them. Moreover, these mechanical troops will not stay in one area. After destroying an area, they will quickly disappear. Now, dozens of areas in the entire Fremont have been destroyed." Zhang Yi frowned slightly. The Pantheon of Fremont has a world-class alien army. Why not send out aliens to investigate? The officer in the picture answered Zhang Yi's doubts with his next words. "At first, Fremont chose to solve these problems on its own. We sent out the Ypsilon-class aliens from the Pantheon, leading a group of elite Delta-class warriors to deal with this matter. But the officer's face also became grim. The Pantheon, god of plenty, Arillo, and his 30 elite alien warriors were all killed within a day. Now, Fremont is in trouble. It is difficult to solve the current problems relying on our strength. I hope your country can send troops to support us for the sake of the friendly diplomatic relations between the two countries." This video is completely over. Zhang Yi bit his finger and frowned. Since he saw the situation for the first time, he didn't know what to say. Everyone was silent. They were used to the aliens being the dominant force of the times, and they seemed to be not very adaptable to the super-era mechanical civilization. At this moment, Fatty Sue suddenly slapped his thigh and shouted in shock. "Fuck, this is too cool. Such a big robot. It would be awesome if I could get one as a figurine." Mecha is a man's romance, and Fatty Sue is particularly fond of it. After watching the whole process, there were only two words in his mind: slut. But, are we going to fight robots? Uncle Yu rubbed his chin with his sturdy arms. Although I have begun to try to mechanize my body, it still feels strange to collide with these steels. From beginning to end, they did not see any carbon-based creatures in the picture. This seems to be a complete robot army. There is no benefit in defeating them, such as the origin of aliens is difficult to obtain. What's more, robots are not afraid of death and can be mass-produced. Moreover, those robots seem to have extremely powerful destructive power. The armed forces of that super-large machine alone exceed that of an aircraft carrier battle group. Even if the era of aliens has arrived, hot weapons do not mean that they are not powerful enough. Unless it was a bishop-level alien with absolute defensive capabilities like Zhang Yi, even an ordinary white chariot with average defensive capabilities would be crushed by it. The intelligence is still not sufficient. Zhang Yi closed his eyes and said leisurely. After a while, he opened his eyes and looked at young Xinxin. Xinxin, what do you think about this matter? He still needed his military advisor to analyze the situation for him. Yang Xinxin said calmly, Fremont is indeed in trouble, but it seems that it is not difficult for them to deal with it. Whether it is from Alexei's tone or the destructive power of the mechanical army in the video, Fremont will not fall so quickly. Then, I should understand that they are more troubled when facing the mechanical army, but they don't want to spend too much energy on it. So they hope that we can share their burden. She looked at Zhang Yi with a smile. After all, they just helped us before. There is always an exchange of interest between countries, so of course they will take the opportunity to ask us for rewards. As for other aspects, Zhang Yi supported his chin with both hands. Without sufficient intelligence support, we can't even tell what kind of new civilization appeared in Fremont this time. We still have to be more cautious. Zhang Yi's eyes were solemn. Next, I will communicate with Shengjing and contact people from other countries by the way to see what their attitude is. The other countries mentioned by Zhang Yi refer to Colombia. If Fremont wanted to ask for help, then the most powerful ones would of course be Huashu and Colombia. And with Colombia's powerful intelligence network, it is impossible that they knew nothing about this matter. Chapter 1762 Cave. In the living room, everyone expressed their opinions. However, due to insufficient intelligence, they could only express their own guesses. Some people believed that a powerful high-tech civilization appeared in Fremont. They created a super-mechanical army to invade the surface world. Others believed that perhaps the newly emerged civilization itself was a silicon-based civilization, and those robots were the main body of the civilization. However, Zhang Yi and others did not agree with this guess. If it was really a silicon-based civilization, then what was the point of invading the human world? Zhang Yi decided to discuss this matter with others. So soon, he called Meng Yuanjun of Shengjing District to inquire about this matter. The video was connected quickly. When Meng Yuanjun saw Zhang Yi, he said directly, "You also received the request for help from Fremont, right?" Zhang Yi nodded and then said, "I don't know anything about the situation in Fremont. You Shengjing must have intelligence. Can you tell me about it?" Meng Yuanjun smiled faintly. "We are located in the northern country, and we do have more intelligence than you. However, we have no idea about these things that suddenly appeared in Fremont." He shook his head and sighed. The signs before these anomalies occurred were very small, not enough to attract our attention. Because this phenomenon occurs from time to time all over the world. Chaos, you have to know. In this era, the entire planet is undergoing inexplicable changes, and incredible situations are appearing everywhere. We can take care of our own country, and we already need to do our best. In fact, we don't have so much energy to keep an eye on other countries. Only some abnormal changes with relatively large movements will attract their attention. Zhang Yi frowned. "Don't you mean you don't have any intelligence at all?" Meng Yuanjun spread his hands helplessly. "The actual situation is really like this." Just when Zhang Yi was disappointed, Meng Yuanjun changed the subject. "However, we don't know, but someone knows." Zhang Yi's eyes condensed. "Who is it?" Meng Yuanjun smiled and said, "The National Defense Army guarding the northern border. They must know something." Zhang Yi then remembered the National Defense Army, led by Qin Xuanba. There are powerful military forces guarding the border. In the southeast, there are the Navy and Zhang Yi, and the entire northern border, the long border bordering other countries, is guarded by the National Defense Army. Huashu State and Fremont used to have a good relationship and had close interests. However, in international relations, there are never eternal enemies or friends, only eternal interests. Therefore, facing Fremont, which borders Huashu State and has a strong force, we also need to be wary. It can even be said that the main force that the National Defense Army led by Qin Xuanba needs to keep an eye on in the northern border is Fremont. Therefore, they must have known about Fremont's unusual movements. Zhang Yi and Qin Xuanba were not very familiar with each other and had never met before. He said to Meng Yuanjun, "Can Shimjing District ask the National Defense Army to provide us with intelligence?" Meng Yuanjun nodded. "I will do this right away. Before confirming Fremont's situation, we should not act rashly." Zhang Yi smiled and said, "I know this in my mind. The favor owed to Fremont must be repaid, but it does not mean to support without thinking and put yourself in danger." So Meng Yuanjun went to find Qin Xuanba, while Zhang Yi opened the address book and found the name of Newton. Newton's real name is Isaac Bruto, but Zhang Yi did not know it. The information of the top aliens in various countries is top secret, and the name is a part of the law of causality, so it is difficult to obtain. Zhang Yi was too lazy to ask anyway. The name itself is a code name, and with the code name, it is natural to communicate. Before the Battle of Tianhai City, he and Newton exchanged contact information. Across the ocean, Zhang Yi talked to him for the first time. It took a long time for the communication to be connected. His pale and cold face appeared in the camera. Newton, who saw Zhang Yi, said straight to the point, "Chaos, have you received the news from Fremont?" As in the past, he didn't like to talk nonsense. Zhang Yi smiled, stared at him, and said, "It seems that you too." Newton said coldly, "The abnormal movement in this world has intensified. This is related to the battle between the Wulwan Empire and us. Perhaps in the future, more and more underground civilizations will appear and conflict with us." Zhang Yi frowned. "If there is no way to avoid it, we can only try our best to protect ourselves." He coughed twice. "Ahem, anyway, let's not talk about this for now. I came to you this time to ask you if you in Colombia have any information about Fremont's abnormal movement." "Of course, if it's inconvenient. You don't have to tell me." Zhang Yi just wanted to give it a try. He and Newton were not particularly familiar with each other, but he had no other source of information at the moment. Newton's reaction was very direct. He said without hesitation, "We have some intelligence. I can share it with you directly. As long as it does not affect his own and his country's interests, Newton is happy to share intelligence." After all, someone like Zhang Yi has now stood at the top of the human world, and everyone wants to gain his friendship. Zhang Yi smiled and said, "Thank you." Newton showed Zhang Yi many pictures directly through the three-dimensional projection. In the pictures, there were huge deep pits one after another, which were extremely dark and seemed to be connected to the center of the Earth. Newton said, "According to the intelligence we have obtained so far, a large number of robot armies have appeared in Fremont. They have appeared in more than 16 federal regions in Fremont. Every time they appear, they will dig many huge pits in the area. And we found that they destroyed human cities, just for fun. In fact, even in uninhabited areas, we can find traces of them digging deep pits." Zhang Yi's eyes flashed. "What are they looking for?" "Something buried underground." Newton said, "This is indeed a very possible guess. And we also found that there is no carbon-based creature among these mechanical armies. Even when the troops in Fremont exchanged fire with them, only machine parts were found in the wreckage. In other words, this is a completely mechanized army." Newton adjusted his glasses, and a strange light refracted through the lenses. "So we can conclude that this must be a super civilization with a technological level that is at least hundreds of years ahead of humans. If we go to war with them, it will be very dangerous. It will even be more dangerous than the war with the Wulwan Empire." Chapter 1763 Mecha. Zhang Yi did not expect Newton to have such a high opinion of the mysterious mechanical civilization. He frowned. "This is not the case, right? You know, we humans have a killer weapon like the god of love and death." Newton interrupted him directly. "Believe me, a civilization that has mastered such a high-level technology must have already mastered the technology of nuclear energy. And it must be far beyond us." Zhang Yi's back felt a little cold. He thought of the strange weapons used by the pseudo-underworld gatekeepers during the battle with the Wulwan Empire. It's not that he had never thought about why the Wulwan Empire, which had such powerful technological weapons, did not directly use that weapon to destroy them. But now, everything has become a mystery, and he can't go to the people of the Wulwan Empire to explain it clearly. But what is certain is that the Wulwan Empire, or the mechanical civilization that appeared in Fremont, must have weapons more powerful than the god of love and death. Zhang Yi's tone of voice also became heavy. In other words, this matter is difficult to solve. He fell silent. Newton, on the other hand, comforted him. You don't need to be so pessimistic. Because it seems that their action area is still in the Fremont area. Even if it affects Huashu country, it is limited to the Far East area. We have analyzed those abnormal points, and they are all near the Arctic Circle. Zhang Yi sighed, rubbed his eyebrows, and said, but there was an accident in Fremont, and we can't just ignore it. Gratitude is one aspect, but more importantly, the lips and teeth are cold. If the super countries of mankind choose to stand by and watch each other when facing foreign invasions, then sooner or later one day they will get into trouble, and no one will help. This is also the main reason why other countries took risks to help in the battle of the Wulwan Empire. Zhang Yi looked at Newton. What do you say? Do you want to send someone over? Newton adjusted his glasses. I can't comment on this. Zhang Yi spread his hands. Indeed, it is difficult to make a quick decision on such matters, and everyone needs to weigh the pros and cons carefully. Newton is very tight-lipped and won't say a word that he shouldn't say. Zhang Yi thanked him for the information he provided, and then ended the call. He lay on the sofa in the living room, not knowing what to do next, so he had to wait for Meng Yuanjun to reply. Yang Xinxin sat next to Zhang Yi and comforted him softly. Brother, don't worry too much about this problem. With your current bishop-level strength, there are not many people in this world who can threaten your life. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Are there many? Not many. He sighed. Although there are not many, it is difficult for me to hide myself and live safely now. I really want to run to the moon, build a lunar base that no one can approach, and live well like this. Yang Xinxin smiled softly. This dream can definitely come true. As she said that, she turned around and said to Lu Karen, who was chatting with Zhou Kier, Yang Xia and others there, right, Karen? When Lu Karen heard what Yang Xinxin said, he immediately smiled and showed his 8 white teeth, and put his right index finger and middle finger together to lightly touch his forehead, making a salute gesture. Of course. Don't worry, brother. I'll take care of all the mechanical problems. Yang Xinxin said to Zhang Yi with a smile. Brother is a pessimist. He already has power that others can't reach, but he still worries about the future every day. If you don't think about the future, you will have immediate worries. Zhang Yi sighed. Lu Karen suddenly came behind Zhang Yi mysteriously, leaned close to his ear, and whispered, Brother, don't put all the pressure on yourself. Sometimes, you have to rely on us more. A light flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. Yes, the reason why he is always worried is that he is used to carrying all the responsibilities on his shoulders. Every time he fights, he will protect everyone behind him like an old hen. And as he has more and more people under him, his sense of responsibility is getting heavier. The guy who always says that he is selfish and doesn't bother to care about the lives of others, but after he has a bond with the people around him, he has become hypocritical. Zhang Yi turned around and pinched Lu Karen's chubby face. Her face was very rubbish, and it stretched out with a slight pull, like a rubber doll. Who do you think I'm doing this for? If my brother doesn't plan ahead and prevent all crises, how can we survive safely in this doomsday world full of dangers? After hearing what Zhang Yi said, Lu Karen put her hands on her waist and said angrily, Brother, you are a little contemptuous. Although I know you have been working hard for our stable life, I am not slacking off either. As she said that, she reached out to pull Zhang Yi's hand and pulled him up from the sofa. Brother, come here quickly. Karen wants to show you something good. Zhang Yi was puzzled. What good things? Lu Karen and Yang Xinxin smiled at each other and then said to Zhang Yi, Something that will definitely surprise you. Zhang Yi looked at the mysterious expressions on the faces of this pair of good girlfriends. I couldn't help but become suspicious. Hey, just follow us and you'll know. The two of them pulled Zhang Yi without saying anything and then walked towards the basement. When walking down the stairs, Lu Keran's voice was gentle and his eyes were full of reminiscence. Brother, do you still remember that we had just arrived at the shelter a few years ago? At that time, I told you that I had a dream. Zhang Yi smiled gently. Of course, I remember it very clearly.
Dream?
What dream? You have been in the shelter for 3 years. If I can still remember it, that's a ghost. Zhang Yi complained in his heart, but he always had a gentle smile on his face, trying to show the image of a good brother who loves his sister. Lu Kuoran said excitedly, I knew that my brother would not forget this. And I have been working hard for my dream. Now I finally completed it. While Lu Kuoran was talking, he had already taken Zhang Yi to the underground warehouse. In the deepest underground, there is a huge warehouse. Boom! The heavy alloy door of the warehouse slowly opened, and Lu Kuoran pointed forward. Look! A dazzling light shone from behind the door and onto Zhang Yi's face. He saw the object clearly and suddenly remembered what Lu Karen had said to him. Brother, I hope that one day I can build the best mecha. Chapter 1760, 4 Mecha 2. Zhang Yi was very familiar with the things in front of him. I believe that any man would have had an incomparable desire for this thing. A mecha. A small mecha about 5 meters high, silver gray in color, with a special luster on the surface. This is a chameleon material that can automatically change color according to the environment, making it easy to hide its whereabouts and can resist radar exploration. The lines that look like a knife or an axe reveal the toughness and sharpness of steel. The joints are covered, but the inside has a flexible connection structure. The chest is made of translucent material. No matter how you look at it, the cockpit should be in this position. This is a one-way glass, and you can see everything outside clearly from the inside. And 2 metal wings hang down from its back, and there are 4 hidden jet engines at the tail vertebrae. Zhang Yi couldn't help but move closer, his eyes glowing, and he believed that no man in the world could resist its charm. He reached out and stroked the body of the mecha inch by inch, and on the back of the mecha, he found a handle in the interlayer. Zhang Yi jumped up and pulled it out with both hands. With a crisp sound of clang, a sword more than 3 meters long suddenly appeared in his hand.
Made.
A familiar metal, the sharp blade shone with a chilling light. If Zhang Yi had not been wearing a special black inner armor, it would have been difficult for him to lift this huge sword weighing hundreds of pounds. Mecha swords, although they do look cool, are they necessary? Zhang Yi asked curiously. To this day, he rarely uses cold weapons to fight. Lu Qian said to Zhang Yi seriously, Brother, it depends on which technique is more advanced, offensive or defensive. And according to the current situation, it is obviously easier to defend. Zhang Yi frowned slightly and did not understand what Lu Qian said. Lu Qian explained to Zhang Yi in detail based on the history of weapon development. Weapons can be roughly divided into 3 types: long range, close combat, and protective gear. The development of the 3 types of weapons is a spiral structure. Primitive people in ancient times learned to use weapons and then fought with wooden sticks and stones. The power of wooden sticks is obviously greater than that of stones, because the thrown stones will consume kinetic energy through air friction. But it has the advantage of attack distance. So later, in order to deal with flying stones, people can use wooden boards as shields to resist. Wooden boards can easily block the attack of flying stones, but if you use wooden sticks to hit them at close range, the defense of the wooden boards will be greatly weakened. Lu Karen spread her hands, raised her left hand, and said, So, at this stage, warriors holding wooden boards and wooden sticks will be more threatening on the battlefield. She raised her right hand again, but at this time, if you want to gain an advantage in distance, you must improve your long-range weapons. So the flying stones began to turn into bows and arrows, and ordinary wooden boards began to be difficult to resist bows and arrows. At this time, the number of archers can determine the initiative on the battlefield. By the same token, in order to defend against attacks from bows and arrows at this time, we must build a stronger metal shield and wear armor on our body. Lu Karen crossed his hands layer by layer. To put it simply, this is a constantly rising relationship. In the era of hot weapons, cold weapons were eliminated because ordinary protective gear could not withstand guns and artillery. However, this does not mean that its power is greater. If the kinetic energy of the bullet is exerted at close range, the lethality will definitely be greater. And now it is the era of great mutation. Humans have mastered superpowers, a power that can surpass gunpowder. Aliens can open the dimensional door like my brother, or strengthen their bodies and deploy superpower shields. If hot weapons cannot achieve a qualitative breakthrough in a short period of time, they will be at a disadvantage in the alien war. Liu Karen looked at the giant sword in Zhang Yi's hand. So at this time, when facing those aliens with strong defense, close combat is actually the most effective way of fighting. Through mechanical principles and the core powered by Yuanshi, incredible power can be exerted. Liu Karen's face became more and more proud, because this was her masterpiece that she had poured 3 years of hard work into. The combat capability of a mecha like this will never be inferior to that of an Epsilon-class alien. Especially when fighting against a group, the effect is excellent. Liu Karen's face was high, with her hands on her hips, very satisfied. Is it true? Zhang Yi widened his eyes, a little bit unbelievable. Of course. Liu Karen's eyes flashed with cunning. She put her hands on the streamlined fuselage, whispered, because it can be loaded with a reactor comparable to a small nuclear reactor. Einstein is really great. The theory of relativity allows humans to obtain extremely terrible power through such a simple principle. That's right, Liu Karen can already make a small reactor. People all over the world know the basic working principle of nuclear reactors, but the most difficult point is the acquisition of materials and precision production. But these 2 points are not a problem for Liu Karen at all. Divine machine control. In her hands with a supernatural power index of 9,900 points, she can completely change the structure of matter and create extremely complex machinery and even weapons with her own strength. Zhang Yi looked at the mecha in front of him and suddenly sighed. It is indeed yes, but it doesn't seem to be very useful to me. He is already a bishop-level alien. Let's not talk about the difficulty of driving a mecha. Can he learn it? From the practical point of view, he doesn't really need to drive this big guy, which will only make his movements inconvenient. Of course, because this thing is not prepared for my brothers, Liu Karen said, as if it should be. She looked at the huge and sturdy mecha in front of her and stroked its body with a slightly red face. This is what Karen built for me and Xinshin. With this, we can also help you when my brother fights in the future. Zhang Yi scratched his head with some regret. Actually, I want to drive it too. Yang Xinshin smiled softly. Brother, that's too difficult for you. Liu Karen raised a finger seriously and reminded Zhang Yi, this is not something as easy to drive as the EVA in the cartoon. The difficulty of operating a mecha is more than 10 times more difficult than a fighter. There are thousands of operating buttons and combinations alone. Apart from me, the creator, she patted Yang Xinshin on the back. Only Xinshin, a genius with a photographic memory, can handle it. Chapter 1765 Mecha 3, 2 chapters in 1. The mecha built by Liu Karen is extremely difficult to operate. Imagine a thing that can run and jump on the ground, fly in the sky, and move flexibly like a human body, but is a fully mechanical structure. How terrifying is it to operate? Even the movement of each joint has a special operation method to maintain overall coordination. This is why many people have questioned in the past that instead of thinking about how to build a mecha, it is better to build a simple and thick tank. Zhang Yi touched his nose. I thought it was for me. Liu Karen hurriedly comforted him. Brother, if you want to drive, Karen can take you to experience it. There is a simple mode, and the feeling of driving it is almost the same as flying on a plane. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes. Forget it, the exoskeleton armor on my body can do it. I don't need that thing. The exoskeleton mecha is equivalent to an enhanced version of combat uniform, which can be controlled by the body. But such a large mecha is obviously not possible, and Zhang Yi has no leisure to learn it. Liu Karen smiled. Brother, don't be so disappointed. Just imagine from now on, you will have another super powerful helper by your side. Isn't it wonderful? Zhang Yi recalled the supplies he provided to Liu Karen in the past 3 years. Although he didn't count the accounts, it was roughly estimated that these resources could build an aircraft carrier battle group. No joke, because he really asked the East China Sea region for an aircraft carrier. At this time, The old aircraft carriers of the ocean era had long been eliminated. Zhang Yi raised his head and looked at the mecha about 5 meters high in front of him, feeling a little painful. This is indeed an extraordinary research result, but it is a bit too resource-consuming. I don't know how strong its combat effectiveness is. If it can only reach the entry-level white tank level, it doesn't seem to be a big help to Zhang Yi now. Zhang Yi glanced at Lu Kuran. I'm glad you like it. You know, brother has always supported you in researching new props. Lu Kuran seemed to see Zhang Yi's inner thoughts and looked at Yang Xinxin, and the two smiled mysteriously. She came over and whispered in Zhang Yi's ear. Brother, don't think it's a waste of resources. When you get to the battlefield, it will give you a surprise. Not long after, Shengjing also replied to Zhang Yi's message. Meng Yuanjun said to Zhang Yi, I have communicated with Xuanxiu, and they do know about the situation of Fremont. Moreover, they have also had conflicts with those mechanical legions. Zhang Yi's eyes became more serious when he heard this. Have you reached the border of Huaxiu? Meng Yuanjun said, there are only some areas in the northernmost part of Huaxiu that show signs of mechanical legion activity. Xuanxiu took people to clean up. Zhang Yi listened very calmly. In his opinion, even if the matter spread to the border of Huaxiu, it could only be a small group of mechanical legions. But Meng Yuanjun's next words directly made Zhang Yi uneasy. The Northeast region sent troops to investigate. One of the 5 immortals of the Northeast died, and Luya was seriously injured. The indifferent expression on Zhang Yi's face could no longer be maintained. It actually affected Huaxiu country. He felt incredible. Those mechanical things could actually hurt Luya? A month had passed since the last war. Logically, with all the resources of the Northeast region, Luya's injuries would have healed long ago. And with the allocation of resources after the war, his strength would be further improved. Not to mention reaching the Black Chariot, he was close. But he was actually hurt by those steel lumps? Meng Yuanjun said, it's hard to say. In short, the combat effectiveness of those mechanical legions is not as simple as you think. They are very powerful, and even aliens can't compete with them. Zhang Yi crossed his hands, nodded and said, I know, of course I know. Whether it is aliens, machines, or thermal weapons, in principle, they are all the means of converting high-intensity energy into attack and defense. But I didn't expect that there would be machines that could hurt Epsilon-level aliens. At this point, he thought of the mecha developed by Lu Qian and couldn't help but have a strange idea. Lu Qian is a human who evolved after the end of the world, and she can create super powerful weapons. Then how could an underground civilization with super technology not be able to do it? Zhang Yi had to reconsider the matter of going to Fremont. He looked at Meng Yuanjun and asked in a deep voice, what do you think about this matter? Who will be sent? Meng Yuanjun fell into silence. His expression was very tangled, as if he wanted to go, but he couldn't. After a long time, he sighed and said to Zhang Yi, I really hope to send troops there. But now Zhongyu died in the battle, and Ho-Tu and Xidagarba can't be easily dispatched. You know, Ho-Tu's body is not very good, and the last battle had a great impact on her. So, we probably have to give up this rare opportunity. Zhang Yi couldn't help rolling his eyes. Rare opportunity? It's obviously a huge crisis, right? Shang Dawen smiled. He stared at Zhang Yi and said meaningfully, Chaos. Crisis always coexists with opportunity. You have to understand that the underground civilization that suddenly appeared this time is a rare opportunity for all the major forces in the world. A good opportunity. Zhang Yi seemed to have thought of something, but he still asked seriously, how should I put it? When he encountered such a thing, the first thing he thought of was how to protect himself. Minimize your own danger to the maximum, rather than taking advantage of the situation. But Meng Yuanjun's thinking was obviously different from his. Meng Yuanjun just said lightly, for example, the last time we fought against the Wulwan Empire, Colombia and Fremont sent people to participate in the war. Did they gain much? Zhang Yi thought about it. Both countries sent Epsilon-level aliens to participate in the war. In the end, they won the war and also gained quite a lot of resources. Among them were part of the origin of the extremely precious bishop-level aliens, as well as a large number of weapons and remains from the soldiers of the Wulwan Empire. Zhang Yi suddenly realized. I understand what you mean. Powerful underground civilization. Everything on them is a precious treasure. When fighting against them, of course you need to face great dangers. But if the war takes place on the territory of another country, then for us, this risk is actually the smallest. But as long as we participate in the war, we can obtain anything valuable from the mechanical civilization, which will be a huge gain for us. Meng Yuanjun nodded. Smart, you hit the point. It's like the discovery of traces of underground civilizations before. Even if the countries of the world know that it is extremely dangerous, they must go to investigate. Believe me, after the incident in the Wulwan Empire, this time all countries in the world and powerful organizations will send people there. Fremont has long known about the existence of those mechanical civilizations. If they can't solve it themselves, they won't ask us for help. Zhang Yi blinked, thinking about the pros and cons of this matter. He found that for him, this matter was indeed low risk and high return. Because as the world's #1 life-saving expert, now that he has reached the bishop level, even if he goes to Fremont's, he is the lowest risk among all people. When Meng Yuanjun saw Zhang Yi's expression, he knew that Zhang Yi was already a little moved. He said seriously, Hun Dun, this time, Huashu country must send someone. After thinking about it, I think you are the most suitable candidate. Zhang Yi did not rush to answer, but what Meng Yuanjun said was indeed true. Zhang Yi's current strength is the best in Huashu state, and his ability to protect his life is extremely strong. He has the ability of both time and space, and can attack and defend. The key is that Fremont's is too large and other people have to take public transportation to get there. Even if they use F-37 to travel, it will take several hours from east to west. What about Zhang Yi?
He will be there in a while.
People from other regions are not unwilling to go, but Huashu State is now in ruins, and they're too busy to take care of themselves after the war and are completely unable to extricate themselves. Zhang Yi rubbed his chin and said, What do other regions say? It's impossible for me to go alone. Meng Yuanjun sighed. Other regions have also received news about this matter one after another. But you also know the current situation. Only Xinjiang and Jiangnan regions have the ability to send troops to support. Or, you can go and discuss with Zhuzheng. The 2 Ypsilons under his command were intact in the last battle. Moreover, the mysterious Nuba has very interesting abilities, and taking her with you may be of great help to you. Zhang Yi sneered. Forget it. I am not short of manpower. For historical reasons, Zhang Yi did not want to get too close to Zhu Yu. Meng Yuanjun smiled and said, So, do you agree to go to Fremont's? Zhang Yi said lightly, I will never forget the kindness of others. Alexei came to Tianhai City to help us, so I have to respond. We can't let others say that our Huashu country is ungrateful. Meng Yuanjun nodded. Okay, we will inform Fremont's about this matter through official channels. You will represent our Huashu country and go there to support. Zhang Yi ended the communication with Meng Yuanjun, repeating the previous conversation in his mind, and felt that what Meng Yuanjun said was indeed reasonable. In the battle with the Wulwan Empire, Tianhai City seemed to have suffered heavy losses, but in fact Zhang Yi was not shaken at all. Instead, he obtained a large amount of alien origins, absorbed the origins of several black chariots, and some black bishop-level origins, allowing him to evolve to the level of white bishops in one fell swoop. After tasting the marrow, he naturally could not miss the change of Fremont's. This can be confirmed from the aliens in various regions of Huashu country. They stick to their own turf and have experienced too few battles, so the speed of improving their ability level is much slower than Zhang Yi. One step slow, every step slow, they are now completely left behind by Zhang Yi and cannot catch up. If he does not go this time, and the high-level aliens from other countries go, he may be able to widen the gap with others. Thinking of the contents recorded on the lost stone tablet, Zhang Yi's eyes became much firmer. If in this world, the meaning of life is to let the final only devour everything through continuous killing and become the most powerful life, then I must always be vigilant and not fall behind. Zhang Yi then called all the family members together and announced to them his decision to go to Fremont. After hearing this, everyone's expression was not too surprised. Uncle Yu said, "Fremont helped us, and we have to repay this favor." Yang Xinxin pointed out Zhang Yi's idea with a very insightful sentence. Crisis also represents a huge opportunity. At this time, if we can't show up at the dinner table, then it may appear on the menu in the future. Lu Karen was beside her, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She was rubbing her hands. The super mecha she had spent 3 years building now finally had the opportunity to go to the battlefield. Zhang Yi said to Bailey Chongqing, "How is the training of the Fueying troops going now?" Bailey Chongqing hurried over and saluted Zhang Yi. "Captain, those guys are now all elite soldiers and are absolutely loyal to you. As long as you give an order, they will go through fire and water without hesitations. Then let them go with me. Only after the baptism of war can they become truly strong." The mechanical army is extremely large. In the image that Fremont gave them, the overwhelming robots left a deep impression on Zhang Yi. As the commander, of course, he would not clean up every miscellaneous soldier himself. At this time, it is particularly important to have subordinates to help with chores and clean up the battlefield. Zhang Yi said to everyone, "For the next 3 days, prepare well. Adjust your physical condition and weapons and equipment to the best. 3 days later, follow me to support Fremont." Everyone immediately said, "Yes." Everyone hurried back to prepare. Even Yang Xia came to the kitchen to make new supernatural food. Zhang Yi carefully checked his equipment. Although there was an intelligent system to check it for him, he had developed a habit 3 years ago to confirm every piece of equipment on his body before the war. Doing so will make him feel completely at ease. Not long after, a video call sounded. Zhang Yi looked up and saw that it was Zhu Zheng. Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slightly and ordered the intelligence system to connect. "Zhang Yi, I heard that you are planning to go to Fremont?" Zhu Zheng asked with a smile. Zhang Yi said, "Yes, after all, they helped us at the beginning, so I have to show my gratitude, right?" Zhu Zheng nodded. "That's right. Gratitude is the traditional virtue of my Huashu country. But I heard that Shengjing district is not going to send people over this time. In terms of military strength, you may have some difficulty. It doesn't matter. You know my ability and my life is safe." Zhang Yi's tone was still indifferent. He took off the magic bracelet and carefully confirmed that Boss's vital signs were normal in order to prevent this semi-biological weapon from causing any trouble. It is safer to have helpers after all. You represent the face of Huashu country this time. Zhu Zheng's eyes flashed with a strange light. Dear viewers, please like and comment if you like the story, and also subscribe if not already.
Thanks.